Everybody, welcome back to the Arkansas Football Report with Otis Kirk. I'm Jason Patterson. Otis has got the day off today. Uh, know that we kind of teased that he was going to be coming on. He's still got some stuff he's hammering out with camps that just finished up, also with recruits that are in town as well. So we're going to give him a little bit more time to get that sorted out so that he can give us a complete report on everything that's been going on over the last 3 or 4 weeks on campus. So got some great things coming up here in the next, say 2 weeks or so with the Razorback Football Report. And I'm going to tell you what is some really, really good stuff. And I cannot wait to share this news with you guys. I will have more details with you after July 4th. So we will get that all hammered out. Then we'll roll that out. I promise you, it's going to be some stuff that you can really sink your teeth into, like literally and metaphorically. So, also, if you guys have not yet, please subscribe and like the YouTube page here for hogville.net. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's that little subscribe button. Click on that and make sure to like and subscribe. So every time myself goes on with either Otis or Dudley, or whenever Kevin goes on, all those force notifications pop up on your phone and they come directly into right in front of your screen there. So that way, if you guys wanted to jump on and watch, want you to be able to have that opportunity. Also, the more folks we have come on here, the more lively the conversations get, and I want to make sure that we're interactive with you guys too as well. So make sure to like and subscribe to the page. Also, I want to hear from you. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done a football show, and I know that there's more questions than answers out there. It seems like I feel like the team. Let me see the team. The staff, for instance, is kind of taking a little bit of a hit this week as far as some happenings that have went on as far as recruiting goes. Otis will be able to kind of navigate us through a little bit of that. I'll also add my 2 cents onto that too as well, so that way you guys can have the most informed opinions and decisions as information comes out. I know that there's been some outlets that have really kind of hammered Sam and his staff, and I mean, for rightful so. I mean, 4-8 season, and you start to look at some of the folks that they've brought in from the transfer portal. They brought more impact players in this year than they did last year, and I'm not even saying impact players as in leading up to 4 wins. I think that this team is going to be better than that, and I've talked to a few people, few Razorbacks that have played before, that they see what type of team Sam has this time around that lead them to believe that the outcome is going to be different than last year. Wasn't the outcome that everybody wanted, but let's just we'll talk about that here in just a few moments. So again, I want to thank you all for jumping on. So if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, good, bad, or ugly, throw them on here. I'll put them on the screen, because the more interactive that you guys are with me, the more interactive and the more information that I can also put out there. Because I mean, let's face it, sometimes I do forget. I get that. I mean, that's just, as the words of Kevin Malone from The Office, is just human natural. So yeah. All right. So let's jump into this real quick. First off, new faces at Razorback Stadium. Now, as you all know, here very soon, Donald W. Reynolds will be falling off of the nameplate for Razorback Stadium, and as of for right now, from what I've been told, they're ready to move forward, at least for the season, to be Razorback Stadium, just plain old Razorback Stadium. That's it. I know that folks have thought, Tyson, for instance, or Walmart, JB Hunt, somebody thought that they may jump into the forefront on this as far as name rights go. Haven't heard anything. So I'm sure that there might be something in the background, maybe, but as of for right now, Razorback Stadium it's it. New faces. There's been quite a few that have moved in from the transfer portal. Move more, a lot have moved out from the transfer portal. I know that Arkansas is top 10, if not maybe even top 5, with the amount of faces that have moved on from the Hill. But Sam has had that opportunity as improving the roster, and I promise you guys, I am not making a prediction like I did last year, predicting 10 wins. That was careless and reckless of me. I do have a number in my head. I will go over that here in a little bit, and I'll reemphasize that too as well. Um, I'm more cautiously optimistic, I think is probably the best term moving into the start of the season. But there's some things that still need to be ironed out a little bit. There's some things that Hog fans need to have kind of quelled as far as feelings go on how the season ended and how this season is going to begin. Because let's face it, it just was not the Razorback team that this entire state identified with in terms of effort, also in terms of execution. Because I know that Sam has talked about this before. This is a proud damn state. This is a state that cares about their team because this is the professional team of the entire state. So, throw your comments, questions, concerns down there in the bottom. We'll go over. We're going to go over transfer portal stuff today. We're going to talk about the folks that have moved into the program and why this is an upgrade from last year. So let's get into that. So I want to start off with the offensive line. You've got Keyshawn Blackstock, Fernando Carmona, and also Addison Nichols. Those three have size. Addison, they got him listed 6'5", 327. Fernando 6'5", 314, and then Keyshawn 6'5", 315. Those are the size of linemen that we are all used to seeing with Sam. But with having Fernando Carmona on the left side, that's what this team was missing last year. You saw that during spring practice, also spring game as well. With Fernando Carmona on that left side, not only does he play physical, he plays violent. And you got somebody over there that's going to be protecting Tailon Green on the backside there. Also, you got Keyshawn Blackstock that's going to be more like he's going to be at right tackle. When you look at having both bookends move in from, I know that Fernando was from Fresno State, but then you got Blackstock from Michigan State. You've got two tackles that have got playing experience that you may not have seen so much of last year from, with not Josh Brown. Sorry, he was inside. Pat Kudus. That was one of the things that he was playing out of position. He's moving back inside, also with Josh Braun. So now you have two guys that are primarily fit to where they're supposed to be playing. You got Josh Braun coming back, transferred from Florida 2 years ago, that has got more game experience now than he did last year coming in. When these guys start to gel, when they give them a couple of weeks, I know that the whole age-old term of moving, the improvements from week 1 to week 2 is the biggest difference that you'll see on a team because you've seen the live fire rounds and understand how they react to different situations. I feel like with the 3 offensive linemen that they brought in that will be starting have already seen that, and also the coaching staff has identified that and what they can kind of do as far as for moving around, things that they can do to execute to put them in the best positions. I think that that's going to be extremely important. That's where this all starts with the offensive line, because now you have the blocking for any pass play with Tailon. Also, you got the run blocking. Now that's where Arkansas, the next step Arkansas had a problem with last year that I feel like has improved this year. You've seen Rocket; he's moved on to South Carolina. You had Augustov. He's moved on as well. But you bring in Braylon Russell first off, freshman, and I'm going to tell you what, this guy looks like a Mack truck, 6'1", 252 as an incoming freshman. And he almost, I'm not going to say he's quite as big, but he looks like almost a Jerome Bettis type, a really young Jerome Bettis type, and the way he runs. He's going to be I guess, more of a battering ram in short yardage situations, unless he's able to come up and he is able to really take hold of some of these carries. Because let's face it, the one back that I was super impressed with, and I think honestly is a big upgrade from Rocket Sanders, was Jaquindon Jackson. 6'2", 228 running back that was converted as a quarterback into a running back out of high school going into college at Utah. Jaquindon's had large, like big moments. Rose Bowl with under Ty Willingham, and has those big moments in the Pac-12, and I think that that's where it's really going to make a difference as well. Having a running back in here that has seen the big stage, so that he's not going to falter from the big stage. He's going to want to perform, and I'm going to tell you what, this guy runs so violently, and he's so fast too. Whenever I see Jaquindon Jackson run, he's going to make a lot of DBs on the outside make a business decision. Do I want to get in front of this guy, or do I want to go ahead and just move out of the way and see if I just can't get his feet? Because that's exactly where they're at with him right now, because his speed to the outside is sneaky fast. So let's go on. One of the things I do want to touch on, and if you have any comments or questions, please jump in, throw those up there. We'll go over all of that with you. One of the, I would say probably the largest outside of the offensive line would be the addition of Tailon Green, transfer quarterback from Boise State. He's a 6'6", 221, runs like a deer. The best comparison that I can probably bring to the table with him, and I know that there's folks that have done this before, I've already said this, is probably Matt Jones, which, of course, if you have heard here in the last couple of weeks that Matt Jones will be entering the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, along with a list of others that are super well deserving. One in particular individual that will be coming up that weekend to see one of his former teammates, Raven Caldwell, be inducted is Greg Thomas, great friend of the show. I personally am lobbying for him to be entered into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, because top 5 in wins, transformed an offense, and helped transform an offense under Ken Hatfield in the 80s. Won 10 games, had a stellar defense on top of the offense. I mean, this is a guy that went from scout team and was really kind of giving it to the defense, and Hatfield had no other option other than to elevate Greg. And so, I mean, different story, different day. But big shout out to Greg Thomas. So with Tailon Green, for instance, though, he almost reminds me of, like I said, Matt Jones. His stature kind of reminds me of Jaden Daniels a little bit from LSU, that just won the Heisman Trophy, that just was taken in the first round of the NFL draft. Do I think that he has that type of talent? Maybe. Does he have the supporting cast? I don't know yet. Could he be entered into that discussion? Only if Arkansas has maybe one loss. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But when you see Tailon Green run live with your own eyes right up front, and you see this guy let loose, he's a real deal. I'm not saying that he's going to be stellar from the get-go, maybe give him a little bit of time. But Bobby Petrino wanted this guy out of high school when he came out of when he came out of Texas. They didn't get him. He ends up going over to Boise State for a couple seasons, and then transfers to Arkansas. And Bobby has his guy. Bobby has his guy with Tailon. One of the upgrades I really feel like with Tailon from KJ, who's moved on to UCF, is Talon's more athletic in the pocket, is more willing to step up in the pocket instead of hold the ball a little bit longer. He's getting it out, and that's one of the things that Bobby has always emphasized is when you step up in the pocket, you only have a second or two left to be able to make a decision or get rid of the ball so you're not taking a sack. Because he would rather you get the ball out and out of bounds than take the sack. Well, of course, anybody is, but Bobby is that's one of the things that you see with Bobby that you didn't see with Dan Enos is the intricacies and the little things that he emphasizes and stresses about. I know that folks have talked about and said, "Oh, well, we got Bobby, we got chill Bobby." No, Bobby is the same. Bobby just is a lot happier in the spot that he's in now, just because he has a quarterback that he can do what he needs to do with. He doesn't have the handcuffs on like he talked about with being on staff with Jimbo Fisher. And so he's extremely excited about getting into the mix with Tailon and making sure that, he's getting him prepped and ready to go. So one of the things that I also want to talk about today is the backup quarterback situation because more time, I mean, we've seen this the last couple of seasons where KJ got nicked up. Okay, do we put KJ in hurt or do we bring in, Malachi Singleton or whoever happens to be the backup at that time? Which Malachi Singleton is right now sitting at number 2, but you got KJ Jackson that's knocking on the door too. I'm not gonna lie to you, the kid is the real deal as far as size goes. A little unpolished, but again, that's why you have Bobby there to help bring him along. So I really feel like it's imperative to see what we have in Malachi Singleton through fall camp too, because he's got to be ready at a moment's notice. Because the first thing I saw whenever I saw Tailon Green was he looked a little lean. I wasn't sure how he was going to be able to stand up to some of the hits that he's going to be taking during SEC play, maybe for like within the first 5-6 weeks. And I think that Malachi could be a very serviceable backup. And the only reason why I say it that way is because we haven't seen what he can do as far as in game situations. Because you've had Jacoby Criswell that was backup last year that he's moved on. And, there are some big question marks there. And I think we'll get those answered in the first couple of weeks because first game is UAPB at Little Rock Thursday night. It's going to be on the host of ESPN networks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's ESPN 2. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, nonetheless, it's a Thursday night game. You haven't had a Thursday night game since Arkansas played Florida A&M a few years ago at Donald W. Reynolds at War Memorial Stadium. So it's UAPB 6:30. It's going to be on ESPNU. So haven't got your tickets yet. Down in Central Arkansas, I don't know if there's too many people that are going to. I mean, I'm sure that there are people that are going to make the trip down to Little Rock, but anyway, nonetheless, let's get back on track for just a minute because I kind of wandered off there on the rails there for you a little bit. Wide receiver. That's another position that I think is extremely imperative because last year you saw the spacing sucked. Guys getting to different levels sucked. You had defensive backs that were able to cover 2 wide receivers at the same flipping time. That sucked. Everybody hated it. And I really feel like in a way you also had some guys that were not fast enough, really. You didn't have some burners. You didn't have some guys that could beat you deep. You just didn't have that. Now, I mean, you do have returning wide receivers from last year that I think are going to be really good for you in the slot. But the 2 guys that you brought in was Jordan Anthony, wide receiver, track guy that transferred from A&M. He's 5'10", 160. And then also, I had him just pulled up here just a second ago. Caffrey Brown, he's from University of South Florida, 6', 195. Those two are burners. Another guy that you'll want you to keep an eye on. I firmly believe that he can really put his stamp on this offense as well, and he can really help out in a lot of ways. Is Monte Harrison, former Lee Summit West Titan. He was a four-star wide receiver coming out of high school. Chose to go the MLB route. Played Major League Baseball for 10 years. Now he's coming in as a 28-year-old freshman, and upstairs he's not 28. Upstairs he's 18, 19, 20 years old, because let's face it, when you jump back into a situation like this, upstairs you kind of revert back a little bit. You keep the same knowledge, but you have that same vigor as the teammates around you. And I think that that's going to play a big part, because he's able to lead these guys in the room and also help lead the offense with his maturity. But at the same time, he brings some athleticism that some of these guys may not have, because he's been at a pro level for 10 years. So his body's definitely ready. His body's not broke down, because it's baseball. It's not a real contact sport like football is. So he's coming in fresh. He's coming in with a lot of vigor. And I think that he's going to make a great impact as well on the team. I do want to look at the defense, and Sam Pittman does not get a lot of run with the coaching staff changes that he made 2 years ago on the defense. The defense didn't look as good as they were because you had an offense that sucked. You had an offense that was awful. It was atrocious. If you think back, going back to the Danny Ford era in those days, he had a good defense. His offense was horrible. And at that point, your defense can only hold out for so long before they let go of the rope and say, you know what, if you guys aren't making the plays and you guys aren't giving the effort, neither are we. And I think that we saw a lot of that last year. You had, T. Will, Coach Woodson, those guys making sure that those guys were up and ready and in the right spots to make plays. But you can only go so long making plays before you just go, what's the point? Why are we'll fight till the end, but I need something from the offense. And I think that that's something that you'll see this year. I don't think that Sam gets enough credit for the amount of changes that he made on the defensive side 2 years ago that affected the defense last year. Because the defense was good. It's just that towards the end of the games, it was just, like kind of what I went back to. I think that he did it with the offense this year. And I think that there's also some folks that need to give him credit for the guys that he brought in with Ronnie Fouch, also with Bobby Petrino, and implementing a system that fits the personnel that he has. And it might take Bobby a year to get all of that. And let's face it, let's look at the first time that Bobby was here. It took him 5-6 games to really get the thing clicking. And, he didn't have a lot to work with. He just didn't have a lot to work with. And so he had to kind of revamp that offense from a pro style offense to a spread offense. Well, he had a spread offense. So I think the pieces fitting this offense are going to be easier for his system. Also with the play calling, it's going to benefit the wide receivers. It's also going to benefit the quarterback getting the ball out a lot quicker than what was happening last year. So let's go to the defensive side. So one of the big hits I really feel like that Arkansas was able to get was at the defensive secondary spot. We had Marquise Brown, transfer from South Alabama. I know that some of these guys, you sit there and look at them and go, well, why? Why should I be excited about these guys? These guys have playing experience at a high level, even though it may be a group of 5 level. You cannot replace that with incoming freshmen. You just can't. So, Anthony Switzer, Safety 6 foot 210 coming in, and also I think one of the biggest transfers was Danny Solly. It says I know that he was a transfer. He was a defensive tackle, 6'3", 355, just a huge space eater. I know that it says that he was a transfer from BYU, but he only went to school at BYU for a semester and then transferred to Arkansas because before that he was at I do believe Hutchinson Community College. Um, so that's where I kind of have a little bit of an discrepancy with that, even though he officially was from BYU, but I think that so you have him coming into the middle, and that's one of the things that Landon Jackson needed. And you had some guys that were able to do that, but you didn't get a lot of push up the middle for per se. I really think that Arkansas can do that now this year. Um, one of the solely one of the reasons was because of Danny Sully coming in with that. He has that size that you need to take up two guys that was going to bust. An Anton Junke free or a Landon Jackson free. That's what they need. As you saw, also Landon Jackson was also mentioned as the first team preseason SEC. I do believe by Phil Steele. So excited about that. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, make sure to throw those on here. And also make sure to like and subscribe here to the Hogville Net YouTube channel. Anytime that we get on here and do any shows with either Dudley or Otis or Kevin, him coming on here as well, make sure to like and subscribe so that whenever we come on here, you guys get that notification that we're here. Quickly before we get out of here, I want to also go over the linebackers, and I feel like that this is the level, this is the position that historically Arkansas hasn't had a lot of depth at. They've had maybe some great players, but not a lot of depth. I know that you had Pupal, he's moved on. You also had kid from Georgia that just moved on back up to Wisconsin. He ended up following uh, wide receivers coach. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you got Larry Worth coming in, linebacker, 6'4", 220 from Jacksonville State. He's got the size. He's also got the speed to go from side to side. I think that is going to benefit Arkansas very, very nicely. Also, you've got Steven Dix Jr. He's a 6'1", 237, kind of like a middle space eater, kind of like a, I don't know, he might almost play like the hog position a little bit, because you see a lot of NFL, this because he's NFL size safety that's coming down playing nickel. And you see that a lot more with some of these linebackers that are a little bit, as far as maybe not undersized, but maybe guys that can help control the middle a little bit. He's a transfer from Marshall. You might see some run. He may end up having to see him at first, maybe on special teams, and then work his way in. One of the guys that I know for a fact is going to be on the field from the get-go is Xavier Sorey Jr., another transfer from Georgia. 6'3", 214. He's a guy that kind of patrols both sides of the from hash to hash. And I think that that's going to be something that Arkansas is going to need with facing spread offenses. And I think that that's going to serve them super well. So I really look forward to seeing him. And I know that you got Matthew Shipley, kicker from Hawaii. That's one of the big question marks that Arkansas had, or Razorback fans had, leaving the spring game. And I even told Otis this too. I said Sam's going to have to go out in the portal and possibly look for another kicker. If not, this whole kicking crew is going to have to spend the entire summer inside Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium now, figuring it out. Because let's face it, what we saw was atrocious, and it's not an indictment on Scott Fountain at all. You just went from having a kicker that got drafted in the NFL draft, and sometimes there is that fall off. Yeah, you thought that Cam was going to stay one more season, and then you have another kicker that's coming in next year that's all world. So you thought that there was going to be that handoff. Just they didn't expect to see him leave as early as he did. So it kind of left them scurrying a little bit. But I think that they're going to get that spot fixed up real good. I believe in Scott Fountain. I believe in what he does, and he's going to do his best he can to get that thing fixed. Him and Sam both. So we'll have to see how that goes. So, well, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me today, jumping on. We did the deep dive with the roster a little bit. We're going to do a more deep dive next week when Otis comes on, and we'll look at all the campers that came through this last couple of weeks. Also, with with the recruits that he's been seeing over on the weekends when they come in for visits and stuff. And so I want to make sure you guys come back in next week because he's going to have more of the deep dive on the recruiting side, and we'll discuss some fun stuff too that's going to be coming up here in the near future, because I'm going to tell you what, we got a partnership that we are going to be entering into with a as a certain restaurant. You guys can literally sink your teeth into this, and I think you guys are going to be excited about it too. So make sure to like and subscribe down there on the bottom right where the like and subscribe button is. You can catch all of our shows live, or you can go back into the YouTube page and watch those at any time. Here in the near future, we'll also be having, you can also catch these on the front page of hogville.net as well. So anytime you guys want to jump back and say, hey, you know what, you guys said this, but this didn't happen, that's fine. Go ahead. But make sure jump on and catch all those. So for myself, Jason, I want to thank you guys for jumping on today and for this deep dive here into the transfer portal of players to be looking out for coming up for this 2024 season. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and take care.